We'd like to welcome you to our current event and weekly Bible study for June 27th, 2016. Today, pretty much just a study concentrating on a lot of the different current events coming up that could kick off martial law in the very near future. A lot of things to pray about. And again, don't want to put this information out there so we can just wring our hands about it and agonize over something like this. I'm doing it primarily that these are issues we need to pray about because God can intervene if it be His will regarding these upcoming situations. And like I said, between now and really, I would say November, when the elections are coming, is going to be a very, very pivotal time regarding all of that. The first report, a lot of different little audio clips will be playing initially here, and this is entitled Black Lives Matter Leader Hacked, Plans Revealed Martial Law by Chaos at Both Conventions. Okay, now this is something that I've gotten a lot into, and actually the listener that sent me this link, James, he said you were just saying this, in other words, in one of my studies, and now we're actually seeing further proof that this very, very well could be the case. Now, if God intervenes, though, it won't be the case. So again, I don't want to put this information out there like it's just all doom and gloom. I believe the Lord's intervened over and over and over and over again. You know, particularly in the last decade. It's an absolute miracle we haven't actually went under martial law at this point. And I do believe it was their plan to put us under that program a long time ago. So I'm just going to go ahead. This is from Dabu7. Now, again, I've played some clips from him before. I'm not endorsing him. I'm not saying he's a Christian or anything like that. But the information that he is going over can be verified from multiple and various sources. So, in other words, if I play an Alex Jones clip or a Dabu7 clip, and I do that, I try to make sure that it's something that it's just not verified from them. It's something that you can go and verify across the board. Okay? On multiple different alternative sources. But I try to pick the one that's the most coherent regarding presentation. If I can, and okay, maybe I would mess up on that, and there's somebody that did a better presentation on it. You can't know all the internet videos up there available, but I think this one pretty much hits the nail on the head. So I'm going to go ahead and play this one now here.
We have some very interesting information being shared here in regards to upcoming events down the road. These are things people should pay attention to. Because if this all checks out, and the more we look into it, the more it's checking out, then there is a plan in place to cause chaos at both the Cleveland Convention and the one in Philadelphia. What I'm talking about here is a big hack that just went down, and it was on the BLM leader, the Black Lives Matter leader, D. Ray McKesson. In it.
Okay, now remember, Black Lives Matter, George Soros sponsored, these are the ones that are kind of at the spear tip of fomenting the coming race war that they want to happen, particularly between blacks and Muslims, where they really want Muslims to be on the same side as the blacks. And there are a lot of black Muslims that have been recruited into that via the prison system. I've got into that before. Now, I'm not throwing all blacks under the bus. I'm just saying that Black Lives Matter is an evil, evil, wicked organization, okay? Just like the Ku Klux Klan, okay, is an evil, wicked organization, okay? So I'm not giving either of them a pass here. I'm just saying that George Soros is putting his money and has been putting his money behind Black Lives Matters, and they have been buying off people in there. They've been paying them to go to the protest. They've been paying them to go to the Trump rallies, to foment a race war, to do whatever they can do to get a race war going so that it will get so bad regarding the conventions and then leading up evidently to the election, because they're saying that there's some people out there saying that it's going to all go down at the conventions. And there's some people that are saying that it's actually going to happen during the elections, and Hillary will end up, there'll be some big controversy about Hillary beating Trump at the elections. There's a lot of different theories out there, but a lot of the theories are all pretty much coming to the same conclusion. And the same conclusion is martial law would be coming between the conventions and the time of the elections, and then that would allow Obama to step in, declare martial law, which would suspend the elections, and he would be president indefinitely. Then he would enact all of the executive orders that are already on the books, and we would basically be in a communistic, slave, New World Order, hellish type of existence at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and let him go further.
Is very crucial information. And it is a conversation between him and Netta.
Now, evidently, Netta is somebody, this Black Lives Matter leader, is on, I think, Twitter, and he's showing the screenshots of their conversation back and forth about what happened here. Okay, now these were all deleted, these were all taken down, but it was like people were enough people went up there and were savvy enough to capture these screenshots before they got taken down.
The one that you see right here. They say in this that they are going after Trump, calling him a racist. Then they're going to get martial law declared so Obama can stay in office. We will win. Call you soon when I get back to my dad's. But it goes further than this. Up here you can see she asked if you had spoke recently to Lynch, which is the AG.
The Attorney General Lynch. Meaning, had this Black Lives Matter leader, this devil, spoken to the Attorney General, devil, Loretta Lynch, because they both have the same agenda. They're both on the same team. With Obama, with George Soros, with the elite, with the Illuminati, all trying to bring about their new world order out of the chaos they are going to desperately trying to create between now and the elections. They cannot have Trump in there. Now, I'm not saying that Trump's perfect. I'm not saying he might not get in there and be the devil incarnate. Okay? But what's at least coming out of his mouth is you have to admit, it's very, very contrary to what the New World Order wants to implement. Now, he could be a total fork-tongued liar. Okay? That could happen, but their actions aren't really acting like that would be the case, is what I'm saying there. They're desperate actions. What they're going to go about doing in the very, very near future, especially if it comes to pass, is only going to validate what I'm saying here. Okay? So I'm not saying I have a crystal ball. I'm not saying Trump's perfect. But this does seem to be a very extremely important desperation issue for the Clintons, Obama, the Illuminati, Lynch, Black Lives Matter, George Soros. They all seem to be on the same team. Okay, the Pope. Okay, and that's just the tip of the iceberg there.
And they talk about the plans for summer and fall leading up to the elections. And he once again says they want to push how racist Trump is now and get the protesters ready so they can shut down both conventions.
And what has Cleveland already done? I mean, they've tried. Now, I believe that there was a judge that stopped it, at least to a certain extent, about where they were going to commingle they were going to have one parade venue for the convention, and they were going to force commingle speaking time and the parade with Black Lives Matter, with all the Trump supporters, with all the factions that are at each other's throats, and particularly with the Black Lives Matter in the Hillary and the Bernie and the George Soros crowd. A lot of them are there as paid agitators, essentially. They're there by design in order to create as much chaos and strife and turmoil as possible. They were going to put them all together, and that was going to be the only. And that's just a recipe for disaster. And I do believe a judge did block that and expanded the venue, and now it's not going to be as bad as it was before. I'm not saying they don't have any other tricks up their sleeve leading up to the convention, but that was the plan originally. So, I mean, again, you've seen this all along, though. I mean, them doing this, I've reported on it over and over again. This is just the next step in that process.
We have to make sure that our voices and people disrupt Trump all summer long. Now, this is.
See, they don't care anything about your First Amendment right for speech. They could care less about that. And if you look at these protesters at the Trump rallies, and I went to one of them just to see for myself firsthand what this was all about. They could care less about your First Amendment right. You have no right to even be there. Even if you're not a Trump supporter, you don't even have a right to go in there. You don't have a right to hear what he has to say. You don't have a right to free speech. Only they have the rights to impose their stinking will upon everyone else. They act as the ultimate social justice warrior bullies that are trying to coerce and intimidate everyone to capitulate into their line of thinking and into whatever they're saying, and to just basically intimidate you into complying with whatever they're saying just because they're screaming louder. They have no logical thought process. You try to argue with them, and it's trying to like argue with a brain damaged moron. I'm sorry, but that's what it's basically like. I didn't engage anybody really there. I mean, I said a few things to some people that were there just trying to have some kind of logical dialogue. But for the most part, what I found is that you're not dealing with logic here. Okay, and it wasn't because I was screaming because I love Trump. I'm just saying it's just their arguments. They're so flawed. They're so warped. They're so evil. They're so brainwashed into their thinking process. You know, it's not worth engaging somebody like this because there's no way you're going to win the argument because you're dealing with literally a brainwashed, literally brain damaged individual most of the time.
Big time, because we've exposed everything that Soros was backing in Ferguson, and guess who was there? He was. He was also tweeting out tweets with women in a ballroom wearing goat heads. It was Masonic.
These people are Luciferians. They are Satanists. They are the ones that are literally behind fomenting and creating this race war that the Muslims will be a big part of as well. They are just trying to divide and conquer this country. And this is where they're putting in most of their chips. Like in a poker game, you put in, well, this is where they're going full board. This is how they're trying to do it. Open up the borders, let as many illegal aliens in as you possibly can, let as many Muslims in, dilute the population, create a population that is with an inherent hatred toward the indigenous population there. Create this gigantic racial division between whites and blacks and whites and everyone else, and then let the fur fly. And this is what they're trying to create with the whole Trump-Hillary thing. Okay, we're going to be exploring that more today.
We knew something was up. Fast forward to today, after the guy had already been to Baltimore trying to run for mayor and everything else, Mr. McKesson has just been busted and hacked thoroughly. Now,
that's the guy from Black Lives Matter, this McKesson. He's one of their leaders.
You can see here even Edward Snowden, his official Twitter account, commented on this. And I can't stress to you enough that there is a plan in place, and this exposes it all. Now listen.
Now, if you want to, I'm posting all the links to these, so you can, if you want to, you can watch these and see the screenshots. He's putting all the screenshots up to validate and to verify all the stuff. It's not just something where he's saying, yeah, well, I got this letter from a cousin of mine that supposedly works at FEMA. You know, it's not like that. This is these are all things that have been verified and have been out there and were documented.
When you're talking about false flag, honeypot type of deals out here where you draw people in and you cause chaos to provoke the beast system to clamp down and take all of our freedoms, it's a dream scenario for them. These are the minions they've had on the ground the whole time with these fake protests. We've showed the paid protesters time and time again. And as you can see here, they have big plans. They're talking with some of the highest people in our government. And this is what they have planned. Now, as you can see here, he was hacked. 2 email addresses and my phone. And they say it was not due to passwords. They hacked his phone itself. Let me show you some more. Screenshots. The hacker got access by changing my SIM, which redirects text, then resetting my passwords to trigger 2-factor authentication. Intense.
This is the guy from Black Lives Matter explaining this on Twitter, and he's showing the screenshots of him doing this. And when he means by changing my SIM, it's the SIM card in your phone. Okay, that's what he means by that.
They took him down completely by getting in here. Here's all the proof off of his site admitting it, and you can see it before they get removed. I'm surprised they haven't came down yet, but I'm sure he's being bombarded with all types of stuff. Here you go. Just in case they do come down, you can see. Someone called Verizon impersonating him and successfully got through. And they were able to get the information that I just shared with you off of his site, which they say has since been deleted in the inside and everything taken back over, and the hackers have been kicked out. But they got the goods. As you can see here.
So they caught him red-handed. Whoever hacked into his site.
He admits he was hacked. These guys got the information, and it is stating that there is something huge coming this fall, or this summer, should I say, at these conventions. Now check this out. We talk about Craigslist ads. We talked about the Orlando events and them looking for cops down there right before the event. Well, check this out. Ex-law, ex-military needed for upcoming convention. Ex-law enforcement, ex-military, Coast Guard, National Guard, Army Reserves, anything. They need you for this convention. Cleveland on this one. Just to give you an idea, they're not just hiring anyone to, what do they want to do? Transportation network, a chauffeur, $22 an hour, and they want them to all be former military and law enforcement or fire. The way things are going, multiple active shooter things being tweeted out today, this is a full court press coming for your freedoms. I hope you see it, ladies and gentlemen. And the proof in the writing, should I say, is on the wall here. I'll leave links. Get this information out far and wide. It's crucial that people see what's coming. I can't stress enough. I do a lot of videos, report on a lot of crazy stuff. But you're talking about a massive event that will dwarf Orlando and all these other ones coming at one of these conventions if they pull off what they want. And this is where we get a chance to stop it. You got to cut the head off the snake now. We have an opportunity to change history with the information that we have by shedding light on it and stopping this from going down. So therefore, when these days approach, you should already know that when you're hearing through the mainstream media that there's large groups amassed in the streets, that these are going to be their leaders in these cities. Are you ready for that? Are you going to let some fake protesters go into a city like Cleveland or Philadelphia, cause pure chaos to where they shut it down, they instill martial law, and they clamp down on all of us? It's all been laid out. And even if these guys were not planning it, I guarantee you there's 20 other groups that are. That should show you just how real this is. You think they're going to stop? You think they're not going to touch these conventions? They've been talking about it forever, mounting up. And as I just showed you, they continue to look for individuals with military and law enforcement backgrounds. And it just shows more proof here. This is where it's going. Shout outs to everyone out there that plays their part.
Okay, so we have that video. Now let's explore this further, because I want to give you a lot of different cross confirmation regarding these issues. And I've been focusing in on these issues a lot lately with my studies because as a watchman, I really see this as potentially. Now, you could always have something come out of right field that's unforeseen, but as far as handwriting on the wall type of stuff, as far as things to pray about preemptively, because the guy like W7 is not going to say anything about prayer. You know, that's going to be irrelevant to them. It's all about man-centered action. It's all about what can we do to stop this. Now, granted, I think you should be proactive in action, in word, deed, but as Christians in prayer, primarily, that God would throw an absolute total gigantic monkey wrench into every single thing they're going to try to do, that he would have all of these devils, and I mean the literal devils and demons and evil entities and fallen angels and Satan himself, if that's the case, that he would have them all in confusion and derision, that they wouldn't know their right hand from their left hand, that they would turn on one another, and rather than devour innocent, devour one another. Have them turn on one another. If they are just wicked vessels of Satan with no chance of redemption, and the Bible talks a lot about that, that the wicked go astray from the womb, and they speak lies as soon as they be born. And these vessels of wrath fitted or prepared ahead of time for God's destruction. Talks about that in the New Testament. Okay? I'm not saying that we don't pray for their salvation. God knows who truly are capable of being saved and who will be saved and who are not. But that he have them in confusion and derision, that they will not be able to accomplish their wicked plans, that they all be exposed. And I think that's a good way to, at least in part, orient your prayers toward this, so that they don't prevail in these wicked, evil plans. They are, I mean, man, I'm telling you, this is all in. This is a very, very pivotal thing here. If we go into this and Hillary and or Obama stays in office, it's game over. And I'm not saying that's where we put our trust, in whether Hillary or them are in. I'm not saying it's going to ultimately end up getting to that point. But I'm telling you, I think I've done enough teachings to know where a third term of Obama, which would be under martial law, it would have to be, because he would have had to have suspended the elections, or a starting of Hillary, and with her unbelievably wicked, tainted, debauched, evil past. I mean, we are talking, I can't even imagine what this country would look like in even a year from now. In either one of those different scenarios. Now, again, Trump may get in there and be Satan incarnate. I don't know. But all I'm saying is what's come out of his mouth, his rhetoric. If he went polar diametrically opposite of that and did exactly the opposite of what he says, well, yeah, then I guess we could have that same scenario. Okay? I'm just kind of throwing these things out there for you to think about, pray about. Anyway, let's go to this next video. It's a pretty short one, I believe.
Hi friends, this is Lori Bulow, and this information I have is coming from A&P News, and things are really heating up, friends, and getting very serious concerning the Stop Trump campaign and by the Black Lives Matter movement working to shut down the Republican convention and plan chaos throughout the nation so Obama can declare a state of emergency and postpone the 2016 elections due to the massive unrest that will break out all across the country. Because of this, Obama will stay in office for another 2 years until law and order can be restored and another presidential election scheduled, so they say. By that time, the globalists will have moved their candidate into position. In this report, there are some screenshots of a couple Black Lives Matter people discussing martial law and how they are involved with the Obama administration. to stop the November elections. We are witnessing the rise of orchestrated riots with paid protesters that will be involved in the shutting down of the Republican convention, friends. Back in March of this year, 2016, Black Lives Matter put out a riot pamphlet for the Republican convention in English and Arabic. Are they expecting members of ISIS to be there?
Exactly what I was just thinking. In Arabic as well. They're on the same team. You have to understand. Black Lives Matter and ISIS, the most radical elements of Islam, are all on the same team. So could you imagine? Like I said, they've had all of these tear cells. I mean, like, remember the recent teaching I did on the underground bases and on just in the mountains of North Carolina, the literal state protected. Our government literally gave them a place to go and to train on how to kill Americans, and they're being left alone, and the law enforcement is being told to leave them alone, and they know, a lot of the law enforcement knows they're wicked and evil, but they've been told no, 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 under the guise of political correctness, don't do anything. And they're in the mountains, just in one spot. I mean, that's just the mountains of certain parts of North Carolina, training, all with the government's blessing. We have an Islamic president with an Islamic. He's installed tons of Islamic people in his cabinet, in the Obama administration, in Homeland Security, FEMA, in very, very high level positions. They're doing everything they can do to protect these Islamic terror cells that have not went hot yet. They've only done things like San Bernardino and the Orlando shooting and things like this just to test the waters. Some of them may have been even, who knows, some of them may have been rogue elements along the way that were just, out there doing it for Allah. I don't know. It's probably all pre-planned. But as far as the bulk and the majority of Islamic terrorists that are in America alone, we haven't seen even a tiny, tiny fraction of them go hot yet. Okay? Given the green light to carry out their jihad against America, meaning holy war, to install an Islamic caliphate, to kill, behead, and slay the infidel, rape their women, rape their children, and impose their will at the edge of the gun and the sword. That's what Islam tells its practitioners to do. Okay, that's just a fact. The Quran clearly states that. So we haven't even seen those rogue elements go hot. Now, can you imagine? Okay, you combine Black Lives Matter, now you have the ISIS angle in conjunction with this and the conventions. ISIS's hatred of Trump and the people that are, okay, I think you could probably see it could be an incredibly volatile time that we're moving into.
Certainly sounds that way to me. Also in this report, besides those screenshots and other information of the conversations between the Black Lives Matter and their planned chaos this summer, are a couple embedded videos, one of which is a person explaining how these paid protesters answer an ad on Craigslist calling for protesters to get paid $15 to $20 an hour, and saying if they're really good with their protesting, like holding up traffic and other things, they'll get hired for more protesting. Usually they're hired by the Move On and Occupy movement sent out by the Democrats and funded by George Soros. Speaking of George...
So there's another one, Move On and Occupy. Then you got Black Lives Matter. I know there's a lot of other different ones. Usually anything, transgender, lesbian, gay, bisexual, that's usually part of the mix as well. Anarchists. Oh, you've got a lot of different flavors of this that are within those groups.
Soros. He booked several rooms at the hotel in Cleveland the days of the Republican convention, which will be on July 18th through the 21st. So you certainly can expect chaos, friends.
Okay, so we're at, let's say June 27th, 2016. It starts the 18th. So we've got like 3 more. So about 3 weeks from the time that this teaching will be posted between when the Republican National Convention starts. Now, I don't know if there'll be anything leading up to that. There may be a whole lot. There may not be a whole lot. It may just start then. But that's the kind of time frame we're actually dealing with when I really believe it's between then and the actual elections in November. It's that time block where they're going to go all out and all in to try to implement what we're talking about here today.
By George Soros. Speaking of George Soros, he booked several rooms at the hotel in Cleveland the days of the Republican convention, which will be on July 18th through the 21st. So you certainly can expect chaos, friends. Also, the other video that is embedded in this article is in reference to the planned chaos as well for the upcoming election. There is a language warning on that video, but if you can overlook that, it certainly is worth the information. So please be sure to click that link below for all this very vital information. This is Lori Bulow.
Okay, so I liked this little video she did. It was only 3 minutes long, and then she posts, actually, she posts a link for these other links she's talking about. So if you want to explore this further, you can click on the link for this and find that out. And you know, somebody that's cognizant of the language too, I really appreciate that. You know, I can't play half the videos that I get on here. Everybody throwing F-bombs. It's like, you know, just standard procedure nowadays. And, you know, anytime I'm up on the internet, it's almost okay, I'm watching a video, and they can be the most calm person doing like a talk about something like health or something, and then all of a sudden they just start throwing F-bombs, and they don't even raise their voice. Just part of their regular vocabulary, you know? I'm like, wow, okay, do you realize that you're always going to alienate a certain percentage of your listeners by doing that? It's not cool, it's not whatever, hip or whatever to do that. You don't have to do that, but, you know, I'm a Christian saying that, so I guess, you know, I'm just bigoted for that. Anyway, I'm not saying like I'm perfect either, okay? It's ridiculous. See it all the time. Okay, so let's go further here. Now, this just right before I was going to start the teaching, I checked Drudge Report one last time just to see if there was any more breaking things that had come out, and this was right at the top. Breaking: at least 10 people beaten and stabbed at California Capitol neo-Nazi protest. At least 5 people were stabbed, injuries reported on both sides of the altercation. More than 100 police responded. Demonstrators battled with sticks, protest signs, and other weapons as Traditionalist Worker Party group, which said it wanted to assist supporters of this presumptive Republican presidential nominee, Donald Trump. Now, these are the neo-Nazis, I guess, they're talking about. They were the ones that wanted to assist the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, Donald Trump. They began setting up for a scheduled noon rally at the west steps of the Capitol. Even before the event began, clashes broke out at numerous locations around the Capitol grounds among 400 people gathered for and against the rally, which had been heavily promoted and denounced in recent days on various websites. It looks real fishy. The video clips I've seen look highly edited. They're showing these rabid, frothing at the mouth, basically Black Lives Matter people, going against these supposed neo-Nazis. And some of the people that were supposed neo-Nazis aren't even dressed like neo-Nazis. They're just guys in like collared shirts and wanting to basically talk. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't that element there, but it looks as though, again, what is this? This is the demonization of anybody that would go with Trump. Now, again, if they were literal neo-Nazis there for Trump, all the better for the leftist media, who's going to say, look at these racist, bigoted devils, and then you have the people on their side that are just as racist and bigoted. Black Lives Matter. I mean, you should have seen these people. I mean, it looked like the abortion protesters outside Planned Parenthood. That quality of people where they're going against the supposed neo-Nazis. And then it showed 2 black guys that had been stabbed, okay, by these neo-Nazis. But yet I didn't really see this big presence of neo-Nazis there. What I really saw, what the camera was showing, was all of these Black Lives Matter, MoveOn.org, all these Occupy groups there going against them being the belligerent ones, them being the ones that were really over the top. And this is what you would expect to see. Okay, so what I'm saying is that this is just one confirmation of what is coming here. Okay, if they can get groups in there like, let's say, skinheads or neo-Nazis, or really, let's say, rabidly, racist KKK type groups for Trump, oh, they're going to love that all day long. Because then they're going to really be able to say, look at all that, and they were going against us, and the Black Lives Matter is wonderful, and MoveOn.org, and see, we're not racist, and look at these bigots, and oh, look at what they did. And then they're going to lump all the Trump supporters in with those groups. That's what they've been trying to do anyway, right? Trump's a racist. Trump hates black people. He wants to ship them all back to Africa. I've heard people say this over and over. He wants to ship all the black people back to Africa. He wants to ship every single person, every single illegal alien back to Mexico and Central America. It's not what he said, okay? But as I've said before, if you're here illegally and you are benefiting from this system and you're here illegally, does that mean we should pat you on the head and give you all of these benefits and give you the benefit of all the federal programs while taking them away from the indigenous population at the same time? Obviously, no. Okay, so I've talked about that subject over and over, but this is what we're seeing, and it's just confirmation of what we're talking about here. Now, let's play this next video. Orlando, America under attack by its own government. And again, this is the big thing that needs to be made known to the masses, is that the primary beast responsible for all of what we're talking about is our own government. They're the ones that have made all of this possible. And George Soros, the Illuminati, the Clintons, the Bushes, Obama, all of these crime family syndicate, generational bloodline Luciferians have made all of this possible. They serve Satan. They are of their father, the devil, and of his works and of his lusts he will do. And he was a liar from the beginning and a murderer. So they're just following in daddy's footsteps.
Hours of June 12th, 29-year-old Omar Mateen, a registered Democrat, unleashed a jihad attack on the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, killing 49 and wounding 53 in the worst mass killing event in U.S. history.
Well, what Rodney, who's my friend who was a bartender that got shot 3 times, said in his own words is that when he was there, he specifically witnessed the assailant coming in. He saw that this guy... He didn't think he was going to be a threat. He just saw him coming in. So then moments after that, pulls out a rifle with semi-automatic capabilities, and it was shooting, big caliber bullets. As soon as that happens, he literally hears the sound of bullets hitting people's skin, bullets piercing flesh, bullets breaking bones, people screaming, people crying, people in pandemonium. The other guy said that there was bodies dropping everywhere. And that the thing with Ronnie said that was so crazy to him is that the person that he was serving in front of him, the person he was bartending with, died in front of him.
The amount of gunshots, and you were trying to find out, I believe that there was more, yes, because...
So you believe there was more than one gunman there?
I believe that.
Omar Mateen, a U.S.-born citizen, had gradually self-radicalized. He had abused his first wife, yet no charges were filed. Unhinged behavior was reported by co-workers, but ignored because he was Muslim. And Mateen was interviewed by the FBI 3 times, but never put on any kind of list. He also traveled to Saudi Arabia twice to visit Mecca. Mateen worked as a security officer for a major DHS contractor as counter-jihad reports. The Orlando nightclub terrorist who pledged allegiance to ISIS worked almost a decade for a major Department of Homeland Security contractor, raising alarms that ISIS sympathizers and agents have infiltrated the federal agency set up after 9/11 to combat terrorists.
And all that's been by design, to Obama's put all these people in the White House cabinets. I've went over their names and their what they're all these czars he's set up over the years. I mean, our government is totally infiltrated at the highest levels with radical, demon possessed to the toenails Muslims that want to see you, the infidel, dead. They want an Islamic caliphate for America, just like they're setting up over in Europe. That's what they want. And they're doing the same thing here. They're just a little bit behind schedule because they didn't have the geographical, I should say, access that they did over in Europe, where they could just like walk into Germany. They can't do that. We got an ocean separating us. So we've had to do it differently. Obama's had to do that differently by flying them in, boating them in, and then they get them on, into wherever they get them. They bus them in. They fly them in on UPS planes under the cover of darkness. They do all of these different things, bring them in under the guise of Christian charities. And I've gone into those reports and are just putting them everywhere in America so that they'll already have their own installed fifth column band of infiltrated Muslim devils that will respond when they are called upon to wage jihad against the infidels of America, the great Satan, who they want to kill anyway.
G4S uses fortified buses to transport hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants from city to city and from cities to the U.S.-Mexican border.
Those are the buses I was talking about. They're blacked out white buses. You can't see who's in there, and that's by design, and this is what they do.
Earlier this month, Judicial Watch revealed G4S has been quietly moving and releasing van loads of illegal aliens away from the border to interior American cities.
And illegal aliens just doesn't mean the people from Mexico. Okay, you could have a whole van load of Afghanistan Islamic invaders that they release. And they're going to probably release them near one of their nearest terror cells that they know about, so that they can go there under and get refuge.
The security contractor also provides security guards and other security services for 90% of U.S. nuclear facilities.
Oh, that's comforting. So these are the same devils that are actually guarding nuclear facilities. I could see nothing that could possibly go wrong with that if they're able to infiltrate nuclear facilities and actually cause meltdowns, and at least, who knows? I mean, you could literally have an inhabitable America in a very, very short order if that started happening. There's probably no worse scenario from a man-made standpoint that could happen if they got into the nuclear facilities.
If anyone was a perfect candidate for being put on a watch list by the FBI or the DHS, it was Omar Mateen. Even his father is suspect, who pretended to be president of Afghanistan and also said gays should be killed. And the local imam in the Islamic community Mateen was a part of called for the death of gays.
Death is the sentence. I mean, look. There's nothing to be embarrassed about this.
It's nothing to be embarrassed about. You gotta kill all the gays. That's what he's saying. I mean, this is a guy saying this in Florida. He's an imam saying this in Florida. It's not like he's saying this in Saudi Arabia somewhere.
And death is the sentence.
The same mosque that Hillary Clinton herself blocked from being investigated.
Of course, because they're all on the same team. Don't investigate them. You leave them alone. It's not politically correct. Don't say a thing against the Muslims. They're all innocent as kittens, and we all know it.
Daniels writes, the Fort Pierce Islamic Center, where Mateen worshipped several times a week, was under investigation by both the FBI and the DHS as early as 2011 for ties to a worldwide Islamic movement known as Tablighi Jamal, which was linked to several terrorist organizations. But according to WorldNet Daily, the investigation was shut down under pressure from the Clinton-ran State Department and DHS's Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Office out of fear of offending Muslims.
May God rain down his fury on all of this wickedness. These ungodly, unholy, unions and ties between the Clintons, between Islam, between ISIS, between the Illuminati, between all of the Black Lives Matter, George Soros. I just pray God annihilate this wickedness. This is pure evil. That's all we're talking about here.
According to recently retired DHS agent Philip Haney. And now, Omar's brother-in-law is mocking our Second Amendment rights with his liberal swill posted on social media. Mateen's brother-in-law, Mustafa Abbasin, even went so far as to call Trump a Nazi and a racist. Breitbart reports, based on 2014 data, the most recent available data from the Department of Homeland Security, the number of green cards issued to Middle Eastern countries increased by 32%. The number of green cards issued to Afghan migrants increased by 379% in the course of that single year.
Okay, so that's 2014. And again, where are you going to go if you're going to get the most radical, most debauched, evil elements of Islam? Well, Afghanistan, Pakistan. I've said a lot about Afghanistan and Pakistan, about how they have such a penchant for little boys, the little chai tea boys, the dancing boys of Afghanistan. I'm telling you, the documentaries I've watched on both Pakistan and Afghanistan, those are some of the most vile devils I've ever seen in my life. Now, I'm not saying every single person in those countries are that, but I'm saying by and large, from what I saw, these are some demon-possessed devils. And I'm talking about they could care less about them raping little boys. It's part of their culture. Now, you have to understand, that's a demonic problem. That is something that is, to me, a demonic cloud over the whole country. If that is their mindset, the Bible talks about having your minds darkened. Okay, well, these people have the most darkened minds of anybody I've just about been able to identify on planet Earth. Okay, so of course you're going to increase their green cards by 379% coming out of Afghanistan, because they're some of the worst, most radical, debauched elements, and we want the worst of the worst of the worst here. I mean, that's what Obama wants. He wants the most radical, evil, wicked elements here, because they're going to have no problem coming in, raping, killing, and whatever they're told to do. As long as they think it's in the name of Allah, go for it. Go for it. That's why they're bringing the worst of the worst for basically for our destruction, our annihilation. That's why they're doing it.
Hillary Clinton has made clear that under a Clinton presidency, these numbers will grow substantially higher. Based on the minimum numbers Clinton has put forth thus far, the U.S. will resettle 730,000 permanent migrants from the Muslim world during her first term alone.
I mean, Hillary, if you think it's bad now under Obama, she's going to ratchet it so far higher than Obama even dreamed of. I mean, it's going to be absolute third world here, just like it's becoming in Europe, in all those areas, into Germany, and that's what we're going to have here. And she said she's going to do it if she gets in office. And if Obama's able to stay in, it's going to be the same thing all over. It's absolutely vital for the New World Order, for its creation, that this country be totally annihilated and destabilized and devastated, and that the middle class is totally annihilated, and they have their ultra serfdom slave class, and then the ultra elite, and then all those that will not go along with the politically correct, worship Muslim, worship Allah, Christianity has no more say so in any way, shape, or form. They're going to have to be put into the camps. I believe that's probably what they would like to do. Now, again, if enough prayer, if enough things go up like that, God can intervene. Okay, so I'm just telling you what they would like to happen. I'm telling you what I see on the horizon from all the years of research I've done. It's all coming to pass here. This is what they want to do. It's becoming more painfully obvious by the day.
Adding up to be larger than the population of Washington, D.C.
Today marks the most deadly shooting in American history. The shooter was apparently armed with a handgun and a powerful assault rifle. This massacre.
And that was the whole. That's what you're always going to key on: the guns. The guns leapt off the shelf from the gun store, and they sprouted little legs, and they frolicked down to the the gay nightclub, and opened fire. There wasn't an Islamic guy behind the trigger actually pulling the trigger, using the gun for evil. No, there wasn't that at all. Islam was not blamed whatsoever. Okay, it was the guns that were, no, it was actually the pro-constitutional, pro-Second Amendment constitutionalists that were blamed, actually, by Obama. The Islam wasn't blamed whatsoever, even though Islam had 100% everything to do with this, well, other than our government enabling it to happen, because obviously this guy should have never even been on the streets. I mean, he was obviously red flag after red flag after red flag, but no, they want to have people like that in mass, out in public, so that they can do this stuff.
Is therefore a further reminder of how easy it is for someone to get their hands on a weapon that lets them shoot.
Even though he got it legally, he got all his weapons legally. He worked for a security firm, but yet he had all of these red flags. He told his coworkers, I want to kill the gays, and I want to do this, and I want to, all of these things. And that was fine. That was good. No, everything's good there. It was the gun's fault.
People in a school or in a house.
If there were bullets flying in his direction from people there that were armed, well, only a fraction of the people that were killed would have been killed. Okay, 3 people there with a concealed handgun. You got bullets flying from 2 directions. You can only shoot in one. Somebody's going to be able to take this guy, or at least keep him at bay until the cops arrive. But they didn't want that. They wanted it all to be flying in one direction, and it was from this devil Islamic terrorist that was put there all by design, obviously.
Of worship, or a movie theater, or in a nightclub.
It only took 3 minutes for Obama to basically blame the American people. What would a real president have said? Take President Eisenhower, for instance. He would have simply told Americans to arm themselves under the Second Amendment. And now Obama has the nerve to call it homegrown terrorism.
As far as we can tell right now, this is certainly an example of the kind of homegrown extremism that all of us have been so concerned about.
Homegrown, which would imply they were indigenous Americans.
For a very long time.
Obama, there is nothing even remotely resembling American values or culture in this attack. Stop using homegrown terror for your sound bites. You are clearly blaming the American people for beliefs that originate in the Middle East. They are not grown here at home. This new benchmark of the brutal slaughter of Americans on American soil is a clear indication that the FBI, DHS, and federal government are not only unable to do the job our tax dollars are funding, bottom line, they are growing the radical Islamic invasion. How about that for homegrown, Obama?
Carlos the Jackal
All by design.
Forward to an Islamist book recently from prison. Of course, they let him do that. He's got a suite in prison. And it says that only a coalition of Islamist and socialist forces can defeat the United States. And in the Obama administration, we get a twofer. We've got them both covered. Raised by Frank Marshall Davis in Hawaii, the communist, and then trained in madrasa schools.
He's talking about Obama. Frank Marshall Davis, his real dad. The guy actually looks like, the communist, socialist. He was like a porn star, and his mom was one of his people that he had sex with or whatever. And then he was trained in Islamic madrasas in Indonesia. He was raised under Islam. Okay, that's how he's raised. So he's had both communistic, socialistic, and Islamic indoctrination growing up with an inherent hatred of America. He is the perfect person they could have put in office to try to destroy this country. And they did it all by design for that exact reason.
You've got both of them in one, folded together in one. After the Benghazi attack, there were hearings in the State Department. A State Department official came out with a quote that should be in everybody's mind. The Taliban is inside the building. He was referring to Huma Abedin, Valerie Jarrett, and others who are allied closely with the Muslim Brotherhood. When Obama came in,
we're all in the White House, Obama White House cabinet. Okay, those are just 2. Okay, there are probably hundreds and hundreds of them at this point. I'm telling you, we have a government that is becoming ever the more infested with these the most radical elements of Islam. This is the reason why all of this is there. Islam gets a pass every single time when these things happen, because obviously they have beyond a sympathetic ear in the White House administration on multiple different levels.
He had all of the law enforcement and intelligence agency doctrines and training methods purged of any mention of Islamic jihad. Imagine trying to fight World War II, but you were not allowed to say Nazi, SS, Gestapo, or Hitler because it would offend all the decent, moderate Germans. That's how crazy it is today.
Obama and anyone previously responsible or currently protecting this agenda that has breached our national security should immediately be arrested.
The transformation.
This is former four-star General Admiral James A. His nickname is Ace Lyons.
Of America has been in the full swing ever since 2008. Now, there's no question, we got a hell of a job ahead of us. With the Muslim Brotherhood, penetration in every one of our national security agencies, including all our intelligence agencies, and as been reported by some, our lead intelligence agency headed by a Muslim convert, this is not going to be an easy task.
The longer these Saudi Arabian lackeys are in power, the more Americans...
I wonder why he's former. He's one of the ones that got purged, I'm sure.
...will be slaughtered. Stop the madness. Arm yourselves, America. Aggressively protect your First and Second Amendment rights. The globalists are bringing a war to your backyard. John Bound for Infowars.com.
See, and again, as more people get armed now, and as more people are starting to really understand the Second Amendment, that if there were people in there, in that gay nightclub, and I'm not condoning what gay nightclubs stand for at all, but if there were 3 gay guys in there that had guns that could have shot the other direction, well, then this wouldn't have happened. I mean, you might have had just a tiny fraction of the deaths that happened there. Now the gays are actually starting to get armed in mass. There's gun ranges that are actually offering free, like in Texas, free concealed carry permits, and and that does not fit with what Obama's trying to push here, okay? So I'm not saying that I want to get in league with the gays, but some of them are even getting it, okay, about what we're talking about. Okay, that's all I have for part 1. I'm going to go to part 2 next.
Scott Johnson's 1,000 plus audio teachings and PDF documents are available for free 24/7 on the internet at contendingfortruth.com. That's contendingfortruth.com. In addition, we also offer a free Christian current event and health email newsletter. You can sign up at contendingfortruth.com. These email newsletters typically only generate about 3 to 6 emails per month if you subscribe to both lists. Please prayerfully help us to continue this work. For mail correspondence or to support this ministry, our mailing address is Scott Johnson, 2359 Highway 70 Southeast, number 321, Hickory, NC 28602. Or on the internet, a PayPal donation link can be found at contendingfortruth.com. Thank you, and may the Lord Jesus Christ richly bless you.